Title: Whispers of Change. In the quiet, early morning light of Eagle Cove, Ruby Jordan's old, rumbling truck bounced along the rural backroads. The town librarian's heart was full of dreams and determination, her mind racing with plans for her future animal sanctuary. She had her eyes on a homestead that had been abandoned for years, and she had saved every penny to make it a reality. Little did she know that today would be the start of an unexpected chapter in her life. As Ruby approached the turnoff to the homestead, her eyes caught a flash of gray fur. She slammed on the brakes, bringing her truck to a skidding halt. A town favorite, Misty the cat, lay trembling by the side of the road, a good 2 miles from her home. With a sigh, Ruby stepped out into the cool air, her boots crunching against the gravel. "What on earth are you doing all the way out here?" she murmured to the frightened feline. Misty looked up with wide eyes, purring tentatively as Ruby approached. With a gentle touch, Ruby managed to scoop her up, her heart pounding with the excitement of an unexpected rescue. But before she could get back into her truck, a sleek rental sedan approached, the engine purring like a predator stalking its prey. The driver, a stunningly beautiful blonde woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, rolled down the window. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice laced with the distant echo of a New York accent. Ruby felt a flicker of annoyance at the interruption, but knew she had to be civil. "Just rescuing a wayward kitty," she replied, flashing a smile. The woman nodded curtly, her eyes flicking from Ruby to the cardboard box in the passenger seat. "I'm in a bit of a hurry," she said, her words clipped. "Could you move your vehicle?" Ruby felt the heat of her irritation rise, but swallowed it down. "Sure, no worries," she said, securing Misty in the makeshift bed of her hoodie. As she drove away, Ruby couldn't shake the feeling that she'd seen the blonde before, though she couldn't place where. She turned onto the main road, the dust from her tires settling behind her. The sun was starting to peek over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the quaint town of Eagle Cove. The sight was always comforting, but today, it was tainted by the looming cloud of competition. Pulling into Mr. Pinkett's driveway, Ruby gently lifted Misty out of the box, stroking her fur until the cat began to purr. She knocked on the door, the sound echoing through the quiet morning. When Mr. Pinkett answered, his eyes widened. "Ruby, thank goodness you found her." With a chuckle, Ruby handed Misty over, watching as the elderly man cradled his cat like a long-lost child. "How did she get so far from home?" he wondered aloud. "Well," Ruby began, "I've got a feeling she was led by something or someone." The blonde woman's face flashed through her mind, and she couldn't shake the suspicion that their paths would cross again. The rest of the day was a blur of phone calls and emails, trying to organize the purchase of the homestead. Ruby's mind kept wandering back to the mysterious blonde with the expensive watch and the cold blue-gray eyes. She'd have to tread carefully. The last thing she needed was someone interfering with her dream. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the library, Ruby couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The town was abuzz with gossip about the newcomer, who had been seen at the local coffee shop and the real estate office. It was clear she was someone of means, and in a place like Eagle Cove money talked. The homestead had been in Ruby's sights for months, the perfect place to build her animal sanctuary. Now, it seemed as if the universe had thrown her a curveball in the form of a chic, sharp-tongued stranger. She'd need to step up her game if she was going to secure the land she'd set her heart on. The following morning, Ruby walked into the town hall, her stomach a knot of nerves. She had an appointment with the mayor to discuss her plans for the homestead. The blonde was nowhere to be seen, but Ruby couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As she sat in the waiting area, her thumbs tapped a nervous rhythm against the armrest. The mayor, a jovial man named Larry, called her name, and she took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. "Ruby," Larry began, his smile fading slightly, "I've had another offer for the property." Ruby's heart sank. "It's a generous one, from someone looking to turn it into a high-end guest house." He slid a folder across the desk, and she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders as she opened it. Inside was a proposal from Claire Presley, the New Yorker, who had nearly run her over the previous day. The images showed a beautifully restored home, surrounded by manicured gardens, and a sleek, modern addition. Ruby's dream was staring back at her, painted over by someone else's vision. Her eyes met Larry's, and she knew she had to fight for what was rightfully hers. "I can match that offer," she said firmly. "I've got the funds saved, and this is what Eagle Cove needs, a place for animals to find refuge." The mayor nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I'll need to think it over," he said. "But I can tell you this, Ruby, your heart is in the right place. I'll be in touch soon." As Ruby walked out of the town hall, her mind was racing. She knew the town needed her sanctuary, but she also knew that Claire Presley wasn't the type to back down easily. This was going to be a fight, and she needed to be prepared. The story of Ruby and Claire's tumultuous relationship began to unfold under the title Whispers of Change. It was a tale of two women from vastly different worlds, each chasing a vision that only one of them could claim. The homestead in Eagle Cove was more than just a piece of property. It was a symbol of hope and transformation. The whispers grew louder as the townspeople took sides, some excited by the prospect of a fancy guest house bringing in outsiders, others rallying behind Ruby's dream of creating a haven for animals in need. The air was thick with tension as Ruby drove home, her thoughts swirling like the leaves caught in the wind. She knew she couldn't let this opportunity slip through her fingers, not when it meant so much to her, and to the animals she longed to help. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Ruby spent her mornings at the library, her afternoons crafting her own proposal, and her evenings networking with local animal lovers to garner support for her cause. She'd always been a fighter, and she wasn't about to let a well-dressed outsider steal her dream. And amidst all the chaos, the whispers grew. Stories of Claire's cold-hearted business tactics in the city began to circulate, painting her as the villain in Ruby's eyes. But there was something about the woman that kept Ruby's thoughts on her, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. It was more than just the competition. It was as if Claire had sparked a fire within her that she hadn't known existed. One evening, as Ruby was leaving the library, she saw Claire crossing the street. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, Ruby felt a jolt of something. It wasn't anger or resentment. It was curiosity. Who was this woman who had come to their peaceful town and stirred up so much commotion? Without thinking, Ruby called out, "Hey, Claire!" The blonde stopped, turning to face her with a raised eyebrow. "Look, I know we got off on the wrong foot, but maybe we should talk about this. Maybe we can find a way to work together." Claire looked surprised but nodded. "All right," she said, her voice cool and composed. "But I'm not backing down from my project." Ruby's heart skipped a beat. "I wouldn't expect you to," she replied, a hint of challenge in her tone. "But maybe there's more to Eagle Cove than meets the eye." And with that, the first step in their journey from enemies to something far more complex had been taken. As they sat down in the dimly lit local diner, the whispers of their impending romance had yet to take form, but the air was charged with the promise of change. Under the soft hum of the neon sign that read "The Cozy Nest," Ruby and Claire faced each other across a scarred table, each sipping their coffee like it was a peace offering. The diner, a relic from the town's early days, held the whispers of 1,000 stories, and it seemed as if it were waiting eagerly to add another chapter. The walls, plastered with old newspaper clippings and faded photographs, whispered of Eagle Cove's history, stories of love and loss, of dreams realized and forgotten. Yet here they were, two women whose futures seemed to hinge on a piece of land that had seen better days. "Whispers of change," Ruby murmured, her eyes meeting Claire's. "It's what this town does to you. It makes you believe in the impossible." Claire raised an eyebrow. "And what is it whispering to you?" she asked, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Ruby leaned in, her eyes gleaming with passion. "It whispers of a sanctuary, a place where animals can find peace and love," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "It's a legacy I want to leave behind." The tension between them was palpable, a dance of desire and defiance. Claire's gaze softened as she took in Ruby's earnestness. "And what does it whisper to you?" Ruby countered. Claire took a moment to consider her words. "It whispers of new beginnings," she said slowly, "of leaving the past behind and finding something real, something that matters." Their conversation flowed easily, the hostility of their first encounter replaced by a tentative understanding. Ruby spoke of her love for Eagle Cove and her dreams of filling the homestead with the sounds of barking dogs and purring cats. Claire, in turn, shared her vision of a serene retreat where city dwellers could escape the chaos and breathe in the clean, crisp air. As the evening drew to a close and the whispers grew faint, Ruby found herself seeing Claire in a new light. The woman wasn't just a threat to her dreams. She was a fellow dreamer, seeking refuge in the embrace of the town they both hoped to call home. The next day, as Ruby worked on her proposal at the library, she couldn't help but think of Claire's words. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to share their dreams without tearing each other apart. It was a risky gamble, but one she was willing to take. The town of Eagle Cove had a way of bringing people together, of showing them that sometimes the most unexpected connections could lead to the most beautiful outcomes. And as the days grew shorter and the nights colder, the whispers grew stronger, hinting at a future neither Ruby nor Claire could have ever imagined. Their rivalry had become a dance of passion and persistence, each step bringing them closer to an understanding that transcended the boundaries of their initial goals. The homestead was more than just a piece of land. It was a canvas for their heart's deepest desires. The story of Whispers of Change had only just begun, and as the pages of their lives turned, the ink of fate would weave a tale of love, sacrifice, and the power of following your heart's true calling.